So now that the rumors have been confirmed that the PlayStation Store for the PS3, the PSP, and the PS Vita are officially going offline later this summer, it's quite alarming on the amount of games that are disappearing. There is a website, I'm going to put a link down below, from Video Games Chronicle that does an analysis that over 2,000 digital-only games will completely vanish from these platforms, and they'll essentially become vaporware. And included in this are 730 PS3 only games. These are games that are only available on PS3 via digital download. 336 of PS2 classic games. Those were games that you could download on your PS3 that were PS2 games. I don't think these are the same as the PS2 classics that you can download on PS4 because those contain trophies, and as far as I know, the ones on PS3 do not, so it makes them two separate versions. There's also 293 PlayStation Minis. These were small form factor games that kind of launched with the PSP Go. They meant to have small file sizes, and most of the games were small in scope. And so included that are 293 minis. And then finally, 260 PS1 classics. And a lot of these games are made by Sony themselves, and they're not going to be able to receive revenue from this. And it leads to the question of, is this okay? With game preservation, I know a lot of people, including myself, are really interested in playing games years, or doesn't even matter how long it's been since release. I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to play the games that I purchase. What's nice about, if you want to put a nice spin on this, about this store being shut down, is you will still be able to download games that you have previously purchased on these platforms, but you won't be able to purchase any new games to add to your PlayStation account. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and the hard place. Either you need to spend some money and get these games digitally on your profile in case you ever decide to play these in the future, or just let this store go by the wayside and not have the chance to play any of these games. And of course, since PlayStation does not have really good backwards compatibility, you can't play any of these games unless you have these specific platforms, because the PlayStation is not backwards compatible and it hasn't embraced backwards compatibility like how Xbox has. So even if you get some of these games, say a PS3 game, you don't have the license when you play it on PlayStation Now through your PS4 or your PS5. That's a separate license. Even though it's the same game, you still have to pay PS Now subscription to play some of these games. And I get it that streaming is different than owning these games, but it just doesn't seem right in my opinion. And I wish that they would figure out a way to play some of these old games in backwards compatibility. I don't think that's ever going to happen because they announced that these stores are being shut down. If they were working on a way to have backwards compatibility for PS3, PS2, PS Vita, all these other platforms that have been abandoned, they wouldn't have shut down these stores that are ending in the summer. There's also some pretty notable titles that are going to vanish completely from digital storefronts. I think one of the biggest DLC pieces that I wish I would have acquired, I may buy this before the store closes, but it's Infamous Festival of Blood. This is a expansion pack in Infamous 2 that I've heard is really, really good. There's also Pain, a really good PS3 game, which I actually own, and I thought it was quite hilarious. And that is a good game. There's also MotorStorm RC, and there's quite a few other Sony first-party games. I mean, you're going to have the Killzone games that are digital on PS Vita, as well as Uncharted Lost Legacy digital on PS Vita will be gone as well. You can only play that physical from here on out if you haven't purchased it. So the point of this video is I find this game preservation perspective of these store closings unacceptable. I think just because the platform is old, that's not necessarily an excuse to shut these platforms down. I understand that PS3s are not as common in people's households as they used to be, and I understand that hardware is beginning to fail for some people that own these machines. And I'm assuming the reason why they're shutting down this store is because no one buys games on PS3 or no one buys games on PS Vita. The numbers are probably really low compared to PS4 and PS5. So it makes sense from a business perspective to clear out some of these accounts that they need to spend time and resources on. With if someone buys one copy of one game on PS3, they need to spend the accounting resources to make sure those developers get paid for that particular game. So I understand it from that perspective, but in terms of preserving your games and your media, I don't like this at all. I much rather would prefer Xbox's approach, where not only do these old games come with you to newer platforms, even games that you bought digitally 10 or 15 years ago are still with you today and you can still play them, but they're actually using technologies to make them run better and look better with things like auto HDR, and now we're seeing FPS boost to make a appearance on this Series X console. And I think this is really important for game preservation, and it makes older games better as time goes on. And really, PC is probably the ultimate best place for game preservation, because if something gets shut down or a game vanishes, modders and pirates kind of bring it back to life. A few examples that I know of is the old game Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. I guess it's, you wouldn't necessarily call it abandonware at this point because it is available on digital storefronts, but the game hasn't received new content in probably 15 years. But there is a modding community that is continuing to add support for this game, new modding techniques to how you can play the game, new game modes, new maps, new rides. I mean, the game has a lot of new content because of this mod. And this game is 15 years old. There's also Command & Conquer. The servers got shut down with the GameSpy shutdown quite a few years ago, and modders have brought the servers back online, and you can play Command & Conquer online again. I think that's really, really cool. There's tons of other examples that I'm not aware of that modders have brought dead games back to life. And I hope that emulation now will be the way to play some of these PS3 games. And, you know, this is legally not the right thing to do, but I think morally, if you want to, kind of enjoy this platform, since Sony's kind of abandoning it, unfortunately, emulation will probably be the only way to experience these games moving forward. So that is a shame, because you can no longer support the people that made these games. But hopefully, maybe one day Sony will have an answer to backwards compatibility, and we'll see these games return. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you care about game preservation? Do you care about the PS3 store shutting down? I'd love to hear your thoughts about this topic. All right, that does it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you, James.